So this is the subserver story time. If this is the first time that you guys are listening to this or watching this or whatever the case is, welcome. What we do every week is we choose one person on the subserver randomly, as well as some kind of job or fun activity. Like, for example, this week we are doing Norina the Lumberjack. So we have 5 entries. First place will get 64 slime blocks, enough iron for a full beacon, so 2 stacks and 36, as well as another star for the beacon. Second place will get a mending book, 41 diamonds, and 64 hay bales. And third place will get diamond leggings, a redstone torch from Loki, and 18 diamonds. Norina's favorite is going to get 9 diamonds as well as her head. So we have 3 judges. If someone could just remind me who the judges are?
Me, because G3, and Timaeus.
Okay, perfect.
Or Timaeus.
Or Timaeus. Okay, so Big, G3, and Tim. And then, just say Tim. Okay, yeah, just say Tim. And then Norina will be choosing her favorite to give her head to. So, without further ado, let's start with the first book. So I'm not going to say out loud who wrote it, just so that no one is biased, but here we go. This book is called Norina Won the Lumber. All one word. Norina Won the Lumber. Okay. Deep, deep in the woods lived a girl named Norina One that had dreams of being the best lumberjack. All day she would chop, cut, and slice, singing, "Norina One can whack, whack, whack." All day and night. She would cut little trees with such ease that she would cut them with one chop of her knees. Like raindrops they would fall, bang, slam, and crush. But after a while, Norina One got bored of the trees that fell with such ease. So she left the woods for the tree of her dreams. This is like a rap. She knew that if she cut down this tree, she would be the best lumberjack ever. She ran and ran for what seemed like days. She climbed, and when she made it to the top, she wasted no time and started to cut the tree. Norina One chopped, cut, and sliced the tree for hours. The tree started to lean. Norina One swung harder and harder. Then with one last mighty swing, the tree falls. Norina One's hard work and effort paid off, and she made her dreams come true. Now she is the greatest lumberjack to ever live. The end. Yay!
Claps.
Yay!
Snaps, exactly. It's artistic, right?
Yes.
Alright. Story number 3 is called That Tree, though. And sorry, I don't know if I said story number 3 or story number 2, but it's story number 2.
You said tree.
Okay, well, it's 2.
What was it called again? That tree.
That Tree, though. T-H-O. Detrito. Okay. Once upon a time, there was a magical forest. In this forest grew a tall oak tree. This particular oak tree had been growing for centuries and had grown up to a great extent. However, the tree was old and dying. The bark was rotting away, and each year the fear of it falling over and crushing the town surrounding it grew. The town had sent many a lumberjack to try and chop the tree down so that it wouldn't fall and crush the village, but every axe swung in its direction just bounced off, leaving no mark on the giant trunk. Now in this town also lived a woman named Norina. She was the only daughter of a very famous lumberjack and had started learning the trade of chopping trees from a very young age. Her swing was swift and her aim precise. She had exceeded any expectations her father held and had surpassed him in the ability to efficiently chop any tree. The town had asked Norina's father to try his hand at chopping the infamous tree, but he refused, saying his bones were too brittle and his eyesight failing. He did, however, recommend someone for the job. Norina. The townsfolk laughed at his judgment and scoffed at her, saying that if no man could cut down this tree, certainly a woman could not. Norina smiled at the townsfolk and politely responded, "Well, what do you have to lose? The least I could do is try like all of the others, but if I can cut it down, we'll have nothing else to worry about." Can someone type Tim, stop that, please? Or Tim, can you stop that, please? Thank you. The townspeople thought a moment and agreed to let Norina try her hand and axe at chopping this impossible tree down. After all, she had a point. Norina prepared her axe. She cleaned and polished it and sharpened it with her father's file. She slid her fingers across the blade gently before nodding her head in approval. That sounded so dirty. She rolled up her sleeves, swung her axe over her shoulder, and headed out to conquer the tree. The townspeople followed her, matching her quick and graceful stride. When she finally reached the bottom of the trunk, she tilted her head up to gaze at the enormous structure. She walked around its base and made some small calculations in her head, determining where she should begin so that the tree would fall away from the town. After deciding which angle she would approach from, she set her axe down, pulled out a leather strip from her pocket, and began wrapping it tightly around the handle. The leather strip was unlike anything the townspeople had seen before. It was coarse on one side and soft on the other. The soft side had sort of a shine to it. Was this her secret? She finished binding the handle of the axe and held it up over her shoulder. She moved an inch to the right, steadied her feet, and gave a swift swing of her axe. The blade hit the tree, and to the townspeople's surprise, it didn't bounce off, but rather the blade became buried in the wood. Norina gave a hefty tug on the handle and the blade wiggled free. The townspeople sat in complete awe as Norina repeated her swings over and over again, making her way through the width of the trunk. After a while, the tree had finally been cut down, and Norina sat at the base, breathless and panting. The townspeople brought her water and a chair and bombarded her with questions as to how she did it. How did she, a woman, cut down this monstrosity? Was it the shiny leather strip? Norina laughed and held the strip up. This thing is just a piece of leather. It's shiny because I painted it blue when I was little, and the paint happened to have a shine to it. Well then, how then? The townspeople gasped. Norina pointed to the bottom of the tree. I started chopping a bit further up than everyone else did. Don't you see it? The bottom of the tree is encased in stone. All those men didn't even bother to look at the tree before they began chopping. They just assumed they could do it. The townsfolk face-palmed and thanked Marina. They held a giant feast in her honor and never doubted a woman again. The end. Classic men, always just chopping trees down without looking at them, right?
Exactly.
Chopping stone trees down.
Exactly.
Well done. Well done.
Snap, snap, snap,
That was a
snap,
good one.
snap. That was very good. Alrighty, our next book is called The Lumberjack.
Oh.
The Lumberjack. There once was a lumberjack. He was weary of his job. The constant chopping was doing a number on his back and wrists. His favorite axe was growing dull, so he stopped and went to his truck where his sharpening tools were. He set to sharpening his axe, rather. He whistled an indistinct tune. From the distance, a beautiful and timid woman. Unbeknownst to the lumberjack, the woman had been watching the entire time. The woman had been living in this part of the woods all her life and knew her way around them. It wasn't a secluded place, just out of the way enough to keep annoying solicitors from knocking on her door. She calls for this lumberjack every so often to help her chop trees down for firewood every winter. The lumberjack finishes sharpening his axe and looks around. The woman panics slightly and hides from view. That was a close one. She didn't want him to know that she was watching his handiwork and admired how skillful he was with trees. The way he measured the trees with just his eyes to give her the most firewood out of her money impressed her. This year marked 5 years of him coming to help her out. She figured this time she would repay him for being so kind to her. She got out the eggs, chocolate, flour, and everything else that she needed to make the cookies. As she was making them, the third tree came down with a whump, and she glanced out the window. The lumberjack was grinning at his handiwork. He had felled another rather large tree and was very pleased with how efficiently it came down. He continued smiling and looked up at the woman's house. She was a curious little individual. She would duck out of his view as if she thought he didn't see her. This is sounding like a love story, oh my goodness. He reflected fairly quickly on the past 4 years of him coming out to chop firewood for her. She was a small individual, but from what the locals had said about her, she had a fiery spirit, as hot as a blast furnace. He remembered the first time he came out to her house. He had nearly stepped on one of her cats. She got really mad, started pounding on him on his arm and said, "Don't you dare step on my kitty, she's the sweet one!" He shivered. He would always watch her where he was walking. She was a very short individual, and he shuddered at the thought of actually stepping on her cats. He shook the thought away and kept grinning, because he saw her glance out after the tree fell. She blushed and went back to her baking, him unaware of what she was doing. The lumberjack then picked up the wood and cut the tree to size. A few hours later, he had stockpiled an impressive stack of wood for the winter for her. He started to clean up the tools scattered around and was putting them away. As he was putting them away, the woman came out to him, smiling and carrying something wrapped up. "Well, hello there, ma'am. Are you satisfied with the amount of wood for the winter?" She nodded and said, "I am, thank you. I figured I could give you a present on top of my usual payment." He smiled and took the gift and set it inside his truck. "Thank you, ma'am. Your reputation precedes you." She blushed and replied, "Be careful. I'll see you around." He grinned and replied with the same. 1 year later. The woman called the company again, and as she always did around this time of year, and requested her lumberjack. "I'm sorry, we haven't heard from him in a few months. We apologize for this inconvenience." After a few heartbreaking moments, she finished the transaction and went to sit down. Her lumberjack no, the lumberjack she favored, hadn't been heard from in a few months? There had to be a reason. She put on her shoes and petted her kitties before leaving. I'll be back. Gotta find that mean old lumberjack. The little cat meowed and flicked her tail, unaware of what the hell her servant was talking about. The woman left and drove to the nearest town. Flashback. Your reputation precedes you. Back to the present. He has to have talked to other people in order to mention me. Her face wormed slightly, but they hadn't heard from him. She drove to the local tavern and walked in to see her friend Ann Peaches. Miss Peaches was in the know with everyone around town. She asked if the lumberjack was seen anywhere, but Miss Peaches shook her head. No, the last time I saw him, he came in to pay off his tab, and that was a month and a half ago. The woman thanked her and walked out to the car, but as she walked out, a man came up to her. Mr. Finch, the town's bird watcher, said, I've been worried myself about him. I do know he lives on his own, but I don't know where he lives. We're not a big town, and I do hope you find him. She thanked him and continued to her car and got in. The tavern had heard from him more recently than his job. Did he leave? She pondered the thought and shook her head. Why was she so worried about him? He was just the lumberjack. She quickly banished that thought out of her head. That's mean. He's my friend. She resolutely set off towards a local church in hopes that he was seen there. He didn't seem overly religious, but it didn't hurt to check. The pastor was there and welcomed her warmly. Miss Norina, what a pleasant surprise seeing you here. She politely nodded and asked him if she had seen the lumberjack around. Tim, stop it. I swear. Please, thank you.
I don't think he's doing anything.
Who's standing right beside King who keeps jumping and making noise?
Oh, was he? He was lagging on mine.
Oh, he was jumping. Okay, anyways.
Oh, okay then.
She politely nodded and asked him if he had seen the lumberjack around. His face fell slightly. I haven't in about a month. He's usually good about not missing, but he did donate a larger sum of money than he usually does in offering. He looked aside. I don't think I had seen him look so sad in a long time, the pastor mused to himself, and Marina nodded and thanked the pastor and walked out to her car. He was religious. He was also very generous. She smiled to herself. She smiled to herself. He wasn't just being nice to her because of her looks. He was a man of integrity. As she continued driving, she went to the town's courthouse. She could find where he was. She went into the office and spoke to the receptionist. The receptionist took her aside and said that his home had been paid off and that his last few payments had been paid in this last couple of weeks. She worried a little bit more. People who didn't have much to lose, no, she wouldn't think of that. She thanked the receptionist, who looked on in wonder. Norina leapt into her car, I'm so sorry, Dukes of Hazzard style, or so she would have liked to have imagined, and drove off to find her lumberjack. She pulled up to a very nice and quiet property. She saw that the property was clean and everything was neatly arranged. Lilacs, daisies, and rose bushes scattered the front of the house. She walked up to the house and knocked 3 times. These next few lines are to be read separated with ample pause in between the sentences. Okay, sorry, got that. The door opened. She looked up at who answered the door. The man looked down and smiled at her. She smiled back at him. Well, hello there, ma'am. The end. The rest is up to your imagination. That was
Oh, wow.
the lumberjack. Snap, 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 snap.
Well, knowing my imagination.
Snaps.
Oh,
They-
jeez.
Well, I mean, they had a usual payment, so.
Yeah.
Wink, wink.
I don't know if my
What's
reading
that?
really did that justice, but yeah, that was pretty good. The usual payment. Alright, the next book is called Norina the Lumberjack, which I assume is lumberjack. Alright. Once upon a time, there was a charming young lady named Norina. She lived in a time where the strength of men was celebrated heartily, and physical strength was seen as the most honorable trait. Women in this time were not known to compete in the annual lumberjack competition held in the town square, and it had been a century since any woman had dared to do more than stand on the sidelines and watch. Norina had grown up surrounded by wood axes and chopping blocks. Her father was a champion lumberjack and had won the town's competition for the past 5 years. Norina had spent her youth swinging axes and dreaming of seeing herself standing atop the first-place podium, seen as the champion by all the townspeople. Her classmates teased her relentlessly, saying, Norina, lumberjacks are supposed to be men. You'll never succeed. You're just a girl. Why don't you stand on the sidelines and cheer for us men while we compete? Norina wasn't having any of it. Bullshit, she thought to herself. If those chicken shit guys can chop trees, there's no reason I can't too. And better. For weeks before the annual competition, Norina trained day and night. She increased her skill with every swing of the axe, and before too long, she knew she was ready. She wasn't just going to compete, she was going to metaphorically slay the competition and send them home crying about how they'd been defeated by a small, weak female competitor. The day of the event arrived, and Norina walked confidently to the town square with her sharpened axe in tow. Wrapped in a rough fabric dipped in red dye, the handle of the axe felt like it conformed to the shape of her palm. She stood at the end of the competition arena and took a deep breath, making sure to put her bravest, baddest bitch face forward. If she wasn't going to win with her axe, she'd at least intimidate her competition with her stone-cold demeanor and icy glare. Her eyes swept over some of the men who were standing by the judges' table, and she smiled to herself. You guys are so dead, and you don't even realize it yet. You're so dead. You're toast. I'm gonna cream you, and... She paused and reminded herself to focus. Okay, focus, Norina, focus, she thought. The head judge Norik stood up behind his table and spoke out to the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, our competition is about to begin. Would all men competing please convene here to the judges' table so that we can begin, he said, smiling. Hey, motherfucker, started Norina. There is a woman competing this year. A series of shocked gasps flowed through the crowd as heads turned to look at her. A woman? Said Norik. But surely you must be joking. This is a strength competition, said Norik, putting a heavy emphasis on the word strength. He spoke slowly, unsure of whether or not she was serious about competing. Well, if you gentlemen, she sneered, are afraid of little old me, then I won't compete, but otherwise, yes, I'd like to join in if it's all the same to you. Norina's glare seemed to burn a hole into Norik's hypothetical soul, and a shiver went down his spine. Damn, he thought to himself. This bitch serious. Norina strode over to the judges' table, axe in hand, and smiled at Norik. He was ready, and she knew it. At the command of the judges, the 5 competitors lined up in front of a row of fully grown spruce trees and prepared to see who could chop down the tree in front of them the fastest. Whomsoever was able to fell their tree first would be crowned the victor and would be given a gigantic basket full of goods donated by the townspeople. Norina leaned forward and looked down the line at her competition. She nearly snorted, laughing aloud, but she caught herself at the last minute. Competitors, prepare. We begin in 3, 2, 1, commence! Shouted Norik enthusiastically. With a deep breath, Norina raised her axe and swung it at the trunk of the tree. Boom! Went the tree. Norina had struck the trunk with such force that the tree was not only felled, it was thrust into the air, and it flew backwards, ripped entirely out of the ground with such a force that her hair flew delicately around her face. The tree landed with a thump, 20 feet behind where it had been planted not a moment sooner, and she smiled as Norik and the judge's jaws dropped to the floor in disbelief. The other competitors hadn't even come close to felling their trees. How was this possible that this woman had come in and swept everyone away? Was she a superhuman? She was incredible, they all thought to themselves. A cheer erupted from the crowd, and people jumped up from their seats. All the men in the entire town crowded around Norina and bestowed gifts and jewels upon her. She was immediately the apple of all men's eyes. Women stood at the edge of the arena with jealousy in their eyes. They knew that they would begin training immediately for the next competition as soon as they were able because they all wanted the same attention that she got. Norina collected her prize basket and shook the judge's hands. Fuck bitches, get money, shouted Norina, thrusting her basket into the air and cheering for herself. It was this day she had not only proven that women could compete against men, and not only that they could win, but they could win so gloriously that they would be remembered forever. And this, dear children, is why we continue to praise Norina for the warmth of our fires today. If it were not for her strength and determination, wood would never have begun to be chopped so efficiently, and we would have nothing to burn for the fires that keep our homes warm. Remember, children, praise Norina the Lumberjack. The end.
Why is like written as a fucking sexist?
Snaps.
I don't know.
It gave the book character.
That was pretty good too.
Alright, our last one is called Norina's Story. Norina the Lumberjane. Once upon a time, there was a family of lumberjacks. Norina and Brorina were the children, and Farina and Marina were the parents, or Farina and Marina were the parents. This family was vital to the survival of the barbarians. One day, while chopping wood, Norina came across a person who was asleep under a tree. She tried to wake him up, but to no avail. Well, she thought fast and made herself a makeshift wheelbarrow and put the person in it. When she got home to her parents, her father asked, "Who is this?" Norina, hesitant to answer, said, "I found him slumbering under a tree, and he wouldn't wake up." All of a sudden, the person woke up to see 4 people around him. Startled, he tried to run, but fell, for he had a broken leg. When asked, "Who are you?" he didn't know. He didn't reply in fear of not knowing who they were. Well, Norina, being the mature one in the family, decided to teach this person everything she knew for the preparation for the upcoming winter. Unbeknownst to Norina and her family, this was the barbarian prince Nono. Well, while teaching him the ways of the lumberjacks, he started to talk to Norina. Not knowing how to start, he said he had no family. Norina, being the nice and considerate person she is, she consoled him. He felt better and had the nerve to tell Norina everything. He told her that he was the rightful king, but he could not find a queen. At that very moment, a swarm of barbarians came to the king's aid, led by Nono's trusted sister, Thethi. Thethi said, "My brother, my king, we must go. The kingdom is needing its king." Nono, being the rebellious king he was, said, "No, my home is here, and Norina is my future queen." Shock and dismay struck the barbarians, and Thethi had replied, "Be it if it will, our kingdom needs its king." Nono agreed and urged Norina to come with him, but Norina said, "This is my home, this is all I have known. Being a lumberjack is my life. I have not even left this forest." Nono replied with, "If you join me, you will be the queen of all the forests your eyes can see." As Norina was about to respond, the Uns had attacked and killed the whole swarm of barbarians, and had injured Thethi and kidnapped Nono. When she came to, Norina had seen a followed Thethi and helped her. Thethi, hesitant, said, "If you are to be my queen and my brother's wife, you must save him." Norina, unwilling, said, "I will, and with the help of you, we can help reunite this broken kingdom." Well, on their way out to the Uns' hideout, Norina and Thethi were approached by 3 barbarians. They had tested Norina, but to their dismay, she had passed all of their tests. Well, approached the Uns' hideout. Norina and Thethi had found Nono. He seemed to be all right. While approaching the Uns, the fallen barbarians had scared Norina. Norina was surprised and was amazed by Nono's appearance. And Nono said, "Congratulations, you have passed the test. You are truly meant to be my queen." To this day, no one knows what happened to the Uns, but Queen Norina and King Nono lived happily ever after. As for Thethi, that is for another story and another day. The end.
Ooh, snaps.
Snaps,
How come
snaps, snaps, snaps.
How come Norik's voice changed in that story?
Oh, I don't know. I was trying to do a different voice for every story, so it sounded like different
Oh, you
characters.
should have given him the same nasally voice. That was good.
No,
But
no,
you
no,
are
I will
you're
fucking
meant to
talk.
be my queen.
Yeah, just like that.
Welcome back, judges.
Welcome back. Okay.
We have reached
Thank
our
you.
decision.
Fantastic.
Dun, dun, dun.
Shall we start with 3rd place?
3rd place, we could not remember the name of, but it was number 5 book. What was the title of that one?
Norina's Story.
Okay, that one was 3rd place.
All right, that was by Bird. Is Bird here?
Go Bird. No, he's not.
Bird is not here.
Okay, well. Okay, 2nd place.
2nd place, we said goes to Norina the Lumberjack.
Oh, snap, that's me. Thank you.
Aw, snap.
He hacks.
Okay, and 1st place.
1st place, we said goes to 2nd book, I think. Let me see, hold up.
That tree, though?
Yeah, that tree though, that was the one.
Oh,
Oh.
snap, that goes to
Oh
Allie.
my.
Oh yeah.
I liked all of them, but I think my favorite is Norina the Lumberjack.
Yay!
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No way. Oh, thank you.
Okay, I liked that, and I liked the lumberjack just because of the amount of detail. I liked a lot of things. I wrote notes.
She wrote
You
notes.
don't
Oh
have to
my.
defend
You
it.
should
Like,
see my paper. There's a ton of notes on it.
Oh, that's so cute.
Did something in Notepad. Yeah,
That's
I
really
got
cute.
like.
Okay, so for the randomizer, we're gonna have one person the story is gonna be about next week,
Yes.
Norina, I will let you do the honors of picking the names since you were this week's subject.
It's Sara.
Sara,
Oh.
okay. And are we gonna be able to come up with like a topic?
What about like the superhero?
Yeah.
Sara the Superhero?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you all so much for listening to this week's Subserver Storytime. If you want to see more of these, let me know in the comments down below. Keep your eyes out for our next story time about Sara the Superhero with more prizes for the top stories as voted by the judges. See you all next time. Bye!